All right, guys. It is here. Sothebys has finally arrived, and I am more than delighted to sit here and talk with Digivatar, who is the designer of the one-of-one Sothebys boutique item, which many of you have probably seen up until this point. And I do want to take a note for most people to realize we're recording this on the 5th, and so the Sothebys announcement is sometime between the 6th and the 9th. So if there's any confusion in terms of past tense and future tense, we're trying to set this up to where the interview is aligned during the announcement, because there's some other things we'll discuss in terms of like how we're going about minting this so that all of you who happen to scan the boutique store every day don't figure out what the Sothebys item is. So there's a lot of different planning that's gone into this, and thank you, Digi, for coming on to the pod.
Sure. No, man, this is exciting.
Yeah, and also awesome meeting you in person. I know many people haven't seen you in person, but you actually flew down to Las Vegas to visit me a few weeks ago so that we could discuss a little bit more about this boutique item, which we're hoping can kind of set the stage for boutique items and accessories for the long term, and not just MoonCats, but just boutique items and accessories in general across the NFT space.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking exactly about that, how this is probably going to launch these conversations with these other projects and implementing this, because this is huge. You know, it's innovation in terms of on-chain wearables. I know there's been some projects that have done some similar things, but not at this level, right? So it is pretty cool to be a part of it.
Yep. And we will cover that item here a little bit later, and we can discuss that. But just to start, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into pixel art and designing.
Well, I'm 44, so I'm probably I'm probably the older guy in the room most of the time, and nobody even realizes that. I mean, I got an early start in design and creative just because it's just who I am. So jumped into that. I've been mostly contract work most of my life, you know, working for an agency and then kind of working for myself. I mean, I worked with some pretty big companies back then, you know, ESPN Deportes, Disney Latino. So I definitely got to understand what it's like to work with these big brands, but then to be able to branch off on myself as like a freelance creative director and just become, you know, in today's day and age, you got to be multidisciplinary in a lot of ways. You can't just be one thing. So really burning the midnight oil and teaching myself everything, you know, these different things. I mean, I didn't go to school for any of this stuff or anything. People ask me, where'd you graduate from art school? And I was like, I didn't graduate from art school, you know? So kind of burning the midnight oil. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of people are probably not going to believe. I think creative is one of these things where you can see what you want to do in your head before you start. So you asked me, you know, pixel art. I mean, I guess I've messed with pixel art before, but the only reason I even started pixel art at this level was because ponderware said I needed to do it that way. So, okay, so there was a little bit of a learning curve, you know, on what their designer, and then, you know, but basically, since I could see what I wanted to do anyways before I did it, it's just like picking up another brush, right, and figuring out how to use it. So
yeah, and
so pixel art, ponderware.
And pixel art seems to be heavily associated with NFTs, right? CryptoPunks are pixel art. A lot of these different derivatives have become pixelated as well. Maybe that's due to the limitations they had back in 2017 and before in terms of storing things on chain, and that's a whole different conversation for another day. But we do know that the boutique store is definitely on chain, and I've talked with Midnight Lightning a handful of times, and I'll put his explanation to it as well when it comes to it. But before pixel art, you were actually designing things for MoonCats before the boutique existed, and Paz has mentioned this in a few interviews as well. Can you tell us why you started designing things for MoonCats before the introduction of the boutique store?
Yeah, so it's really kind of a coincidence that it was happening probably when the team was developing and thinking about it, and I was already kind of doing it. Is really coincidental. But when I got introduced to MoonCats, at the Rediscovery, back in March, a friend of mine, AJ Colores, I give him a lot of props for getting me into the MoonCats. He started a clubhouse, the official MoonCat clubhouse for that moment when everything was really hot. And I don't know, I thought it would be cool if people had some space helmets. We're going to the moon, they're MoonCats. So I just started designing some stuff in Photoshop and just giving it to my friends, just sending them the PSD file and saying, if you know Photoshop, you can change the colors. If you don't, then tell me what color you want, There were some pretty cool big influencers who were like, hey, can you hook my cat up and stuff like that? So it was kind of this cool thing. And then I remember going into that clubhouse. It was full. They were having a meeting, and I said, hey guys, I have an idea. What if I started creating a bunch of packs? Would you guys buy gear for your cats? I created skates and 3D glasses for an 80s pack and a UFO for a space pack. And they were like, heck yeah, whatever. And I'd be like, well, I'll give it all to you guys for free, but whatever. So I just started thinking about this idea of creating for the MoonCats gear. And I was actually pretty deep, and I guess I can send you some files so you could show it, but you can see some early renderings of my pre-pixel art versions of the gear I had. And then all of a sudden I find out somebody heard that ponderware had put out they were going to do this for the MoonCats, and somebody said, oh, you've got to contact Digivatar because he's already doing that in part of the community. I wasn't that big into the Discord part of the community at that time. It was kind of because I hadn't known about them, right? Some of these guys are OG, been there forever. So no disrespect that I wasn't there, guys. I'm sorry. But I was part of this other little community that was barely emerging that eventually joined the Discord. And they're the ones that connected me with ponderware. And I talked with Paz, and she said, yeah. She goes, why don't you be one of our day one designer, when we drop? And I was like, all right, well, what do I got to do? Well, you got to turn all your designs into pixel art. Okay, that's cool. How much time do I have? 2 days or 3 days or something. I was like, what? So, yeah, that's how it started. I burned the midnight oil and created the 80s pack right before they dropped. And, the 3D glasses were part of it.
How would you describe that experience of you were tapped in 3 days before the boutique was unveiled, but there were a handful of other designers that were part of that first 1 day launch. Was it coordinated between all the artists on the things that you guys were designing? Was it chaotic on the back end? Take us through that experience.
No, it was kind of a silo in the sense of, I knew that I was one, and I knew that I was going to have to let them know when I was done and submit it to the dev team so they can, I guess, mint it. But I was just on Twitter. I was trying to see who else. So Kimonas, I think his name is, he created the early helmets. He was promoting his helmets. So I was like, okay, so he's promoting his helmet. So I guess I should get some promotions ready for my 80s pack stuff. No, we really didn't coordinate. There was a channel that ponderware had for the early collaborators, just to talk to us on the technical side of things if we had any support questions. But as early artists, at least I wasn't connecting with any of them at the beginning before the drop. Afterwards we've connected, and I've talked to Tusk and talked to Brand Name and some other people. And I even had this idea to do this pretty big collaboration with a bunch of the day one artists, and I've gotten some feedback from some that want to be a part of it. I haven't really talked about this yet, so we might do something down the line together, But early on, no, we didn't really talk, and it was kind of just in your own, trying to create these things, get them ready. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and you have a unique approach to the wearables and the accessories that you've launched. Obviously, your backdrop shows you have arcade machine, the 80s, the kind of 80s theme, the DeLorean, the cuddle. All of these things continually begin to unfold. One that is not on your backdrop, which is something we discussed when you're out here in Las Vegas, is personalizing different boutique items. You did a one of one for Art Bro with the Cool Cats headset, with the DJ booth with DJ Churro. You put his name on it. Do you think this is an emerging trend that can help also establish boutique items as something as legitimate?
Yes, for sure. I it's crazy because as they approached me, some of these community members, will you do a custom one of one for me? For me, it was just like a no-brainer. Of course, man. Like, let's hook you up. What do you want? What do you need? And it's funny that after some conversation with them, some of them, most of them actually have said, "I didn't even think you would do it. Like, I didn't even think you would be willing to do that for me. So thank you." So it's kind of cool. So I definitely think it's a trend that can be. It's really important. For DJ Churro, he didn't even have a cat. And when he asked me, do I need a cat to get my personalized item? I said, you're going to need one. Yeah, you're going to need to, or else you can't claim it, It's like, I'm getting a cat right now. I was thinking about it anyways. That's it. I'm getting it. So I definitely, it brings community members in. I realized that it's connected me with some community members in a deeper way, and it's fun, man, as a designer to be able to just, what do you want? What do you need? And the cool part about the designer is I can actually show them as I'm designing along the way to make sure they're cool with what they're getting, and they can kind of even customize it even more. So I definitely think it's going to be a trend as bigger designers come in, more people come into the boutique. That's going to help a lot of people get some really customized, items, which is really cool.
Right. The boutique has received actually a lot of criticism from the get-go, from some of the people not existing in the community. Even at the time of this recording, King Kai just bought 25 floor MoonCats, putting the price up a little bit higher. But he also mentioned that boutiques were one of the worst things to ever happen to MoonCats. Also, NFT Machine's been highly critical of it as well, but is also beginning to come around kind of these ideas. Why do you think some of these larger influencers are so resistant to boutique items?
Well, I mean, of course, it's just my opinion, but I think art is subjective, right? Super subjective. There's going to be people who are going to love the idea of the boutique, and I can understand the purist side, I guess, of an NFT project, why people wouldn't want, these items. I mean, I know, no disrespect to any artists out there. I know the boutique can begin to get cluttered, as you look through it, even though now the ponderware team has put some featured artists at the top of the boutique, so you can find some artists that they're kind of putting out in front. If you don't go to those featured artists, you've got to go through now over 1,000, I think, items, and it can get overwhelming. And just like OpenSea or anything else, there can be some stuff in there that maybe just is not as aesthetically pleasing. I don't know. So I guess in that sense, the purist part of it, and then the subjectivity part of it. But I think that's a smaller voice than most people. I think most people actually like the idea, even though what I have noticed is a lot of people buy stuff, and even though they don't necessarily talk about that they bought it because they really liked it. They really liked the item. It's just, there's this cool factor to some of these items. And so I think that's what it is. Maybe the influencers don't like the idea, but I love what ponderware has done to solve this issue. They allow you to hide your items. You don't have to wear them. But I bet you that some of these influencers are on the down low buying some day one items because they understand how the NFT space works, right? It's like everything's historical. Everything's about a one of one, or the first time that something came out, because there's a potential, I believe, for some of these items to gain value over time. I mean, at the beginning, it's kind of more of a personalization thing, like a desktop background or something. But I think over time, some of these items, as they become rare, and we've seen that with some of these pirate hat and some of these other items. I mean, I've had some people hit me up about the DeLorean. Hey, how can I get that last DeLorean? I really, really want it. So I think that's going to change, right? With more people coming in. And again, I think that's the minority who doesn't like it. I think the majority appreciates what it is. And on the technology side, I think it's super innovative. Like, I think they're innovating in the space, and a lot of other projects are probably going to follow suit. I mean, I know. Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to share that. There's another project that is going to be creating another boutique type and I've been approached by them about creating some stuff, and they're connected to MoonCat stuff.
Yeah, there has been I have seen Beacons was doing a wearable where you could put the body on your punk. So that's something that I've been kind of watching as well. It's the only other project I've really seen that has something boutique like. But
well, I mean, if you think about Isotile, right? Isotile's got like those monuments or those things that people, I'm sure they're going to start filling the space, you know, where you want custom furniture in your little room, you know. So I think stuff like that is going to begin to grow.
And the boutique items add a whole new dynamic to it, which we'll cover a little bit once we get into the one-of-one Sotheby's item. But if you add something with a backdrop, it's almost like a portrait or a painting. And somebody in the MoonCat Discord posted their backdrop in Somnium Space with their cat, and it's on the moon, and it literally looked like a painting in this visual world. So then it turned it into something more than just a pixelated cat, and more of like an actual pixelated painting, which can be admired more than the cat. But going back a little bit to the one-of-one items, the first cat that I ever accessorized was now known as Darth Kitty, the one that I sold to Pentoshi. And I accessorized it with all what's considered day one boutique items. So all of those were out there in the first day. And the thought was that over time, as the boutique expands and you get 10,000 items in there, and you have the Louis Vuitton version of whoever it is designing in there, or Digivatar becomes much bigger, which is one of the reasons why we collaborated on the one-of-one item as well, that it brings a lot more prominence to the whole entire space. And then as crypto works in human psychology, you try to go to the earliest rendition of whatever your space is, because those seem to have the highest appreciation and value, at least from the most basic idea.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. It even over time, and it hasn't even been that long, right? The last 3 months or 2 months since the boutique launched. You know, at the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, okay, so let me put out, 200 BTC coin chains to make it available. But immediately, if you even look at just some of the stuff that I put out, and some of the other artists that are doing, I think, well in the community and putting out some really amazing designs, is to start limiting what you're putting out, right? Start making it limited edition drops, I guess, of these items, because like the NFT space works, people are going to say, hey, you can't get that anymore, right? It makes it a little bit harder for us as designers to have to come up with new ideas all the time and stuff. But I think you're absolutely right. What you did with that one cat, and filling it with the day one is what I think a lot of people did. I mean, I bought a bunch of stuff for one of my cats that was just all the day one stuff.
So since the boutique has launched, which I believe was July 7th, I might be missing a few days there. What are the biggest adjustments you've made in terms of your own artistic ability, and also the implementation or deployment of the item?
For sure, like I mentioned, is limiting the items, starting to really think through these bigger ideas, these designs that are going to take a little bit longer to work through. So really kind of not just putting out for the sake of putting out, but really kind of curating what my artist page looks like and what it is. And then this concept that I have about these packs, right? So all of a sudden you have like the 80s pack or the crypto pack is really being thematic in that sense, right? And so that for sure has been one of the changes. And then really starting to think about those people who are collecting my items, I guess, and who are buying my items, is how do I create a mini community with them, right? Because they're obviously supporting the work that I'm doing and putting in. And so how do I give back to them, right? So beginning to think through, as ponderware puts out features where I could start gifting items or giving items, is to airdrop like an item to all my collectors without them even knowing, saying if you had bought anything from this day prior, tomorrow you're getting a specific 80s pack item exclusively for my collectors. Because that's kind of like what they deserve, right? Because they're supporting me. So stuff like that. So really beginning to think through, the importance of what I'm contributing to the space, being one of these featured artists, instead of just blowing it off and thinking, oh, like whatever, is really being humble and grateful by it. And so how can I give back? How can I connect it with my collectors? So it's kind of cool.
So on the back end, from the designer perspective, do you have the ability to see who's purchasing it? Does it display what wallet addresses are purchasing your products?
No, it doesn't. So a lot of the times, I'm deliberately and being intentional, looking for my items. When I see the bot sells, somebody bought a cat and I see my item on it, I'll go see who bought it, and then I will send them a tweet or a DM if I can connect with them, if I can find them. Or people will tweet something that they bought an item, so I'll try to connect with them. I'll send them this, really thank you for buying and collecting. So I'm kind of looking for who's collecting. And then as we get closer to that one feature, I'll probably put out some information about, hey, if you ever collected from me, why don't you send me a DM? Let's connect. I'd love to connect with you. So
yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. I do. Before we go into, I'm gonna share the screen with you. We're gonna start looking at some of your specific items, and then we'll end with the Sothebys item. I do want to mention about the boutique store for those that aren't aware, and I had to get clarification from Midnight Lightning, because a lot of this stuff that they're doing it's highly complex on the technical aspect. The boutique items itself are not ERC 721 or ERC 998 items. They're completely customized digital items. And so I was under the impression that they were ERC 998, but ERC 998 just allows NFTs to own NFTs or other digital assets. So that was the key component to it. And so these fall under the accessories and wearables fall under the digital items, but it's all completely customized by the way that they stored it on chain as well. So they're all working for that. But I did want to mention that because I do see a lot of, it's not misinformation. It's just not completely understanding where we are. And I was one of those people completely as well. So did want to make that mention. Here's your Twitter account. So make sure that you guys go and give Digi a follow. As we
can 1,000. Come on.
You're almost there. Yeah. 969. Nice. And you were also a designer, or you were a creator for Foundation.
Well, as a designer, right, since I got into the NFT space, I'm obviously, putting out different projects. Started on Foundation. I've been working on a couple of different projects for some other platforms, but yeah, not just a pixel artist.
Yeah, make sure you guys check out his work as well. So here is Digi's boutique. Let's see, he has about, almost 20 items.
Mm-hmm, something like that.
Yeah, so here's the first item. As you can see, they're all numbered. So this was part of the 80s pack.
Those were all part of day one. Any of the 80s pack stuff was day one stuff.
Yeah, so what was the reasoning behind going with the 80s pack to start?
Nostalgia. It's stuff that I wanted on my cat, being 44, the 80s, I was growing up in the 80s. So, it's kind of what I grew up with. I grew up with a Walkman, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's dive down a little bit. We got the space pack. Oh, so you actually have a few sold out items already. Let's see, the crypto pack, the hold.
Yeah.
You have
the space pack UFO sold out.
The space pack. Where else?
The DeLorean would be sold out if it wasn't for me stopping with the lab. There's only one left. So I stopped the sale because that's kind of cool. I could stop the sale if I wanted to.
Why would you stop a sale?
Well, so after when there was only one left, I stopped it from being on sale because I decided, you know what? So many people have been talking about it. Why don't I do like a giveaway in a sweepstakes? So I'm going to give this away.
So for marketing purposes, that makes sense. Yeah. I love the suits on for Sothebys. This is the one that I have Mr. Moo decked out in. You have the Big Night. So this is the one-of-one custom item that we were speaking about earlier. Was this the first ever one of one custom item that you created?
Yes, Art Bros one of one is the first one that I created.
And what was that experience like?
That was really cool. You know, he hit me up and I was like, yeah, man, I could do that. And he's like, but I also want a suit on him. And I said, okay, because at first it was just like the TV. And then he actually, so it's kind of cool. He actually wanted to do it to actually pay tribute to the suit up for Christie's. So he wanted his PFP to be that night that everybody was suiting up. So I was actually working against the clock because I had no idea. And he was like, bro, is this going to be ready today? I was like, oh, you want it tonight? He was like, yeah, because everybody's suiting up. So kind of worked through it with him. But yeah, that was a really fun experience. That kind of got me excited about being able to go down that route.
Yep. And here's DJ Churros. So that was the second or third, depending on what the one of one. We've got.
And that's another one of one, that MoonCat.
Ooh, who was this for? Has this been unveiled yet?
Just a random community member hit me up from another project. He was on the Isotile project, and he saw what DJ Churro did, and he said, hey, you know, I'm a traditional hookah pipe smoker. Can you create that for me? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So it's kind of cool.
How freaking incredible is that, man? That is, you're definitely making some moves. In terms of the minting process, when you're creating, let's go up here to the top, this one that has 500 limits, did you have to pay mint price or gas fees for every single individual one, or does it come as a package?
No, right when you, so do you want me to share my screen so I could show the viewers what it looks like on the back end?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, I can do that.
Let's see. So stop share.
Let me, so let me go here. And let me share.
Yeah, because I actually have no idea how the back end works. I'm not a designer myself. I'm terrible at aesthetics, so I haven't even tried to dive into it at all. There we go.
You can see it, right? Okay, So this is the back end. Here are some items, right? So there's actually a lot of the items. So there's stuff that I haven't put out. I mean, look, here's a guitar that I did it was just too big. So I was just like, it just doesn't fit, you know? So here, let's load the DeLorean, right? So see, right when you get into so this is kind of what you get at the beginning. You get to name it. You get to pick the content level, whether it's everyone, teen, or mature. It has to be everyone in order for ponderware to verify it, so you can see it on OpenSea. I mean, you can do mature items, but they won't verify it.
And they did. Ponderware did come out and discuss this. The reasoning is that they want it to be family friendly. And you can still create a boutique item that's mature. And if there is an independent boutique store created outside of the one that Ponderware has, the item will still will exist in your wallet and can be displayed on other ones, but just won't be displayed on their central server.
Yes. And so you can put it up for sale. You put the price, which is cool because you can't change it later. So you can change the price later. What you can't change later is the name once it's minted. And you can't change the supply. So this is where you put the supply. So I learned early on when I created a few items where I would, like the cuddle sign, I only made 3 of them. And I learned early on that if I want one, I should make one more than what I want to put on the boutique, so I could accessorize it, or else it takes it off the supply. So once you put this information, you go to the actual editor, and here you can see the editor. You can put a no background, a dark background, or a light background to work with, and then you get 8 colors to work with, which is kind of cool. What I think is really cool about what Ponderware did is you can pick, you see the bottom row of colors is all the colors that are on a MoonCat, and the MoonCat that I specifically am working with right now. These are the colors. So if you use these colors in your design, then it will change colors depending on the MoonCat that accessorizes it, because it'll use these base colors, and all the base colors are based on your MoonCat. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the reason why it's 8 colors, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is due to the limitations of the storage on the blockchain.
Correct. 8-bit art, right? Almost.
Yep.
It's like, and so you get all these tools to work with. It's super intuitive, but at the same time, it is, rudimentary in terms of like, Adobe Illustrator or some of these others. So you get to, you get to use some of these tools to help you design quicker. I learned a couple of things quickly. See, I have it on the move right now. If I move the item, you can see I can move it away from the cat. But if I move it off the canvas, it'll actually, well, it's not doing anymore. Oh yeah, see, it erased
Oh,
it.
wow.
So I learned that the hard way the first time I was creating the first DeLorean, that I didn't know that I could, see, like, even though you could like reverse what you did, but I didn't know that at first, that I could just do Control Z. And I lost like 4 hours of work because I moved it off the canvas for a second and it completely erased it.
How long would something like this take you to design?
This one took me, like, after tweaking and everything, probably about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. It was just because I kept coming back to it. And didn't like the way it felt or whatever, and just changing little details.
And for when it comes to pre-design, do you sketch on piece of paper first, or do you just do everything, just a mind dump onto this canvas?
When it's a really small item, like the Bitcoin chain and stuff like that, it's just straight mind dump onto here. If it's a bigger item like this, and you've seen this with the Sothebys concepts I did for you, I will do it on my iPad. I will do it in a Pixel app that I use that just gives me a lot more tools and stuff like that, so I can really get the idea of what I want, and then I'll just come and then. But I've got to redraw it on here, right? Like you cannot import an item that you've created outside into this canvas. You have to actually start, you have to actually start drawing in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then so after you finish your drawing and you're good with it, which is kind of cool, you get to go to the position editor side of it, which, as you can see, so this pose is for standing pose. So you can start making micro adjustments on where the cat is going to be with your item. So as you can see, if I go too high or too low, the cat will start sticking out, right? So you make these micro adjustments to the point where you get it where you want it exactly, or you can disable the pose completely.
Right. So there's probably there'd be 8 different poses, because you have right facing, left facing, and then the 4 different poses themselves.
Yeah, and you can see up here on the top, you can mirror the placement and or mirror the accessory, and you can put yes or no. So if it's a problem if you have writing, I don't know if you've noticed, if you put writing on the top over somebody like my cuddle or hodl sign, it's not a big deal to mirror because you don't have to mirror depending on pose. But if you put it on an item, you can't mirror or else it's going to be backwards.
Interesting.
So that's one of the things you have to take into consideration. And here you can see that for the stalking pose in my DeLorean, there's no way to show the cat without making the cat stick out. So it's the only pose for the DeLorean that unfortunately you will only be able to see the cat's ears.
That sucks.
Because if I try to go down to the point where you can see the cat, his tail starts sticking out.
Oh.
So on the other ones it doesn't, but on that cat specifically, if I make the tail stick out, it no longer seems like he's sitting inside, right?
Right. So yeah, there are a few items I've seen in the boutique store where it's the item is limited to only a certain amount of positions and not all 4.
Right. So that's why like when I created the suit up for Sothebys, it was kind of like do I really want to do this? Because I knew I had to create 4 different designs for the 4 different poses because one wouldn't work. So that's another thing. I've tried, like a lot of the bigger designers that are working on here, as you can see, most designs are made to fit all the poses. So you have to make the item big enough to fit all the poses, because it's kind of a pain in the butt, right? To have to design specifically again, because you got to rename it, you got to remint it, and then you got to like specifically do it for one pose. So most items are created this way. So this is kind of cool. You get to micro adjust what the cat looks like. And then you go to this preview page, and it actually gives you you could shuffle here, and it actually just picks random cats and puts them in different poses, and you can see the colors depending on the cat.
Oh wow,
so this is where and how I get all my my promos, right? Because I just save image, and then these are the images that I'm putting on the back of my promotions, and like putting in the community and stuff is by saving the different by just shuffling through. So if you want to get like a Genesis cat, you got to keep shuffling till a white or black one comes up. If you want that in your promotion, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, only 25,000 possibilities.
Yeah, you could be clicking for a while. Then you go to export. Well, here's a crazy thing though. I'm actually using one of the day one designers where you actually exported the JSON file and then you sent it to them, because on day one they didn't have the front end designer set up yet, so you had to send the devs this. So I keep using this because then you can go to the actual designer, and using a special function in the control panel, you can bring up an import window, and you can import what you design on the other designer into here. But most people who are designing for the first time don't have this designer. They have just the front end one, so they never have to export an actual item. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let me just go to this ETA chat real quick so you can see. So this is the actual front end designer that ponderware most people who are designing for the first time will land. You can see when instead of an export like the other one, you actually get to a place where you connect web. It says items already deployed, but this is where you would submit it, and then your gas fee would come up on your MetaMask, and you would submit.
Those gas fees are probably out of control.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
the higher the gas fee.
Yeah, that's one of the discussions that we had. All right, so now that you showed us the back end, let's cover this boutique item, which we have a lot to discuss. So basically what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to play it for you, but I'm going to incorporate your promo video right before this. And then I'm going to share my screen if you want to hop out of the share screen mode. And then I will hop onto, and I'm going to show them the original picture of what the boutique item takes after. And then it's lined up. Can you see the lined up side by side or no?
No, I just see the one.
Cool. So this is the original item right here. This is from the 1958. It's called the Evening Event Auction in London from the Sothebys. And it was the first ever event auction of its kind, which is now considered a mainstay for all auction houses across the world. And what I mean by that is just the format to which they do it now. And maybe Digi, if you want to expand on it a little bit of why you chose this image and the relevance of it.
Well, I want to give you some credit for sure, because I sent you, I had two ideas, right? And I sent you both of them. I had one idea more than anything. I had this arcade idea, and you kind of said, why don't we? And I was like, it's a little too cliche. But when I started thinking about, what you said, I started doing some research and some digging. What's cool about the evening auction or evening sale that became a mainstay, that was different from the day auction, was that it was a higher value item or lot than just a bunch of different items. And it was more focused on either one or two as opposed. So I thought that was super interesting because, with what we're doing at Sothebys, it's kind of focused on MoonCats. And the fact that the write-up that was done when they celebrated the 275th anniversary was around this, how Sothebys has innovated in the auction space with the evening sale or the evening auction event, right? So I decided to pick that. So instead of making an actual item, I decided to create a scene, which is recreate this scene with and then putting the cat where the guy is holding the actual what's for sale, and then putting a cat behind the podium.
Yeah, that's the coolest aspect of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, became a little bit of a challenge, but no, I mean, we did it. So
yeah, here. So now I'm going to switch over to the actual Sotheby's item itself. Here we are. This is it. So there's actually some Easter eggs that are in this as well. But one thing I want to note right off the bat is you see Sothebys is listed right across. And so as I stated earlier, this isn't exactly an ERC 721 NFT. It's a customized digital asset that's stored on the blockchain. And so I wasn't able to get a response from Sotheby's people on whether this is accurate or not. But from what I see, it'll either be the first or one of the first ever digital assets that has been approved by Sotheby's to be stored on the blockchain. And so whether that holds some sort of historical significance, I guess will be determined by whoever purchases this item. But in my opinion, I think this can completely change the game because this item will be stored with MoonCat number 10, which is the number 11 minted MoonCat ever because there is a number 0. So one of the first ever MoonCats, this item is going to be with it for its entire existence unless there's some future update down the road. And so this will probably forever be known as the Sotheby's cat, is kind of like how I see it. And whether you want to flex this as a profile picture, maybe not as good of a profile picture, but as we were talking about earlier, in the digital metaverse, you can display it as a portrait or a painting itself because that's what it takes after. Or whoever buys it buys a NFT digital frame and puts it in their house as a physical piece. So there's many different use cases for this, but the Sotheby's branding is truly iconic because it's bringing the first ever approved name brand to the boutique store.
And let me ask you a question, Jake. Is this the first item where Sotheby's there's something that they're auctioning off that has their name on it too?
I believe from a digital perspective or from a digital stance, yes. I tried to do some digging to type in Sotheby's auctions or Sotheby's auction items on Google. I couldn't find anything, but they go back to the 1800s or 1700s, 1744. So I would assume there's probably some sort of item that was approved, but in the terms of NFTs, or we call them on-chain assets, I believe this is the first of its kind.
So just real quick, this is a full scene. Every single area, the whole area of the canvas is being used, all 128 by 128 pixel space, which is kind of cool. And because of the limitations, right, I couldn't use the actual cat that this item is being put, this scene is on, is actually behind the wall. I had to recreate the cat to put him on the actual frame that the guy is holding, that's the actual option item. And obviously I had to recreate the cat behind the podium, which is kind of cool because at first I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And then I said, wait, it will if I just recreate the cat. And what actually made this possible, I was kind of sweating it, just so you know, Jake, because at first we were going to do this and I said, oh my goodness, I can only use 8 colors. The cat alone uses like 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 colors, I think it is. That leaves me 3, but it was okay only because we were recreating like a sepia colored vintage image. So it was okay to be almost colorless everywhere else. So
yeah, it worked out perfectly. And yeah, even though the actual cat is hidden behind, as we said, the ERC 998 capabilities show that an NFT owns an NFT. So this will always be owned by MoonCat number 10. So whether the larger image of the MoonCat isn't displayed, if it's verified on the blockchain, it proves that you are the owner of MoonCat number 10 because MoonCat number 10 is the only person that's
and ponderware also created the ability on the front end of even like OpenSea where you can just hide the accessory and you'll immediately see the cat.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that we were discussing with the Sotheby's team as well. Is they loved the idea and they approved for it to go. They brought up a point which I think everyone did: is do they think the boutique item will downplay the significance of the item or devalue the price? But as we mentioned, and that's why with Sotheby's, we put another description of two paragraphs into what's the meaning of the boutique item, the significance, and kind of the precedent that we're setting here, having it being sold, and whether it catches a massive premium or not is to be determined from the time of this recording. But it's innovation at its purest form, and the fact that Sotheby's is signing on and agreeing with it, but they're also asking the right questions. So in the collection itself, there's 4 items being displayed. The 3 MoonCats, number 183, 220, and number 10. And right next to number 10, they have the boutique item. So it actually is 4 items. One of the items is just owned by MoonCat number 10. So we had to precisely describe what exactly is going on here. And under our discussion that we had is, I think there's potential for this item to attract some non-crypto native collectors, specifically those who have been buying at Sotheby's for years or decades at a time, and they have some sort of brand loyalty to the company. Having their name displayed across the top, and it being the first cat NFT too, may attract some buyers that are not native to NFT specifically.
Yeah, and just the whole ode to this actual event being done in an NFT way, like it's an NFT, the cat sale is, and then it displaying this particular event. It's just all kind of cool how it connects, and how it's definitely a first. I mean, even if it doesn't get a premium as of today's recording, we don't know. It's a first either way. So
yeah, it's adding some significance and some validation to the boutique's items in general. Also, I'd like to mention that there are some Easter eggs in the background. Would you like to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, if you start staring at the background and you start looking, you'll start seeing that there's actually a bunch of hidden cats. There's a total of 17, only because, that's the date that the project was launched. There's a couple other cool things hidden in there, and maybe you'll, as you stare at it and look at it, you'll see that. So
yeah,
have fun.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about this. Obviously, paying homage to Sotheby's and MoonCats, but as crypto people and internet natives, we like to add additional things into the background to kind of just have fun with it and to add to it. And also I want to mention, at the time of this recording, this item actually has not been minted yet. That's why it's being displayed as a picture. And the reason behind this, and Digi and I debated this for a pretty long time on when do we actually mint the item. But if the procedure behind it is that it has to be approved by ponderware. So we had to reach out to ponderware and be like, hey, whenever we decide to mint this item, we need it to be approved as soon as possible. But also that if we list it now, there's still the potential of somebody else going in and buying it if we aren't on the same page. Right.
I mean, once we list it and ponderware verifies it, I have the option in the designer here. I don't have to show you, but I have an option in the designer for an item to make sure it's not visible on the front end. Mm-hmm. But but your cat needs to buy or own it. So your cat needs to accessorize it, so we've got to do right now, unless ponderware is going to help us. I have no idea as of right now, but it's going to kind of be this game where it's like, okay, go, it's on there. You got to buy it. Hopefully gas is low, or you're going to pay half an ETH, right? Because it's in gas, to put it on. And then the truth of the matter is your cat will have it like on OpenSea. So you got to go immediately to the wardrobe, take it off so that you can't see it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things that need to happen to make sure that it kind of stays, you don't let the cat out of the bag, pun intended.
Yeah, that's why I think what the plan is once Sotheby's does announce it, because they gave us a time frame, is immediately upon them announcing it is have mint it and go through that entire process while everyone's paying attention to the price of the cats and the floor. We're paying attention to the boutique store to get that going. Yeah. And just going to have to bite the bullet on the mint price, because as you mentioned, this is fully pixelated and it's the first fully pixelated image that you've done. And so the minting cost is actually like quite high on this one.
Yeah, it's pretty high. When gas is, if gas is anything above 50, I don't even know how to pronounce the name.
Gwei or Wei.
Wei, yeah. It's super expensive. It's like over $700, or something like $800. And and like just if it's over 100, it's like $1,500 or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens once that time does come. But as we are the 5th, so could be tomorrow, could be on Saturday. But I don't think it's gonna prevent anybody or any of those other people who just keep asking when Sothebys, because me, you, and ponderware, we're all holding it internally until then. But I'm more than excited for this. I think personally, I think it's going to set a large precedent. I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise, and hopefully we can turn some of those naysayers into believers for maybe not just the entire boutique setup, but maybe these more one-of-one items, which seems to be a big trend within the NFT art sector itself, where one-of-one collections from specific artists tend to catch massive premiums. And maybe the same goes for the boutique, where one-of-one items from specific designers tend to catch massive premiums. Because
that's one. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said that, because yes, I've done some one-on-ones because I was commissioned, right? Like somebody said, "Can you help me with something?" But I've been thinking about, okay, so after Sotheby's, if all goes well, what if I did my first non-commission, just here a Digivatar item, one-of-one? What would that be? What would it look like? Not even two of one where I have one to put on my cat, just one of one. I'm not even going to have access to it, because what does that look like? It's kind of, right now it would seem a little pretentious to think, oh, I'm going to release a one of one, but I don't know. Will it work? Will people be like, no, we're not going to get it? Or will people want a one of one from, So it's interesting to think about,
Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you're on the frontier and the cutting edge of these new technologies. There's a bunch of naysayers, but over time, usually if you're on the right trend, then everybody wins at the end of the day. So I'm just here and hit stop share, and man,
so that arcade booth, that arcade on my background was actually the second concept.
Yeah, it was actually. It was. And we did, ironically, when he presented that, there was somebody else that was sold an item at Sotheby's that looked almost identical. It was like very weird coincidence how that happened.
It was crazy because mine was pixel art and his was full on 3D, a trillion pixels.
Yeah, that was fun. But
so cool.
Man, I thank you for coming down and that we get to collab on this awesome opportunity, and for Sothebys and for ponderware, for all of us to kind of be coordinating this to do something a little bit different, and Sothebys to even go and thank them, because selling NFTs is already taking risk and diving into a new medium. But for Michael, who was on tweeting, and he was a MoonCat owner himself, and to put this blue chip first generative art project on Ethereum out there, and to give it its praise and its promise, which is what Sothebys and Michael, their first thing leading is they didn't even discuss price or certain items. They said that they wanted to help establish the narrative and the story of MoonCats with the lore and the historical significance. So I thank the team for helping us out on giving us the opportunity to establish MoonCats, and then the innovation on top of it with the boutique store, taking it one further for everybody. So thank them, and then also thank you for coordinating on this. I have a lot of faith in not only you, but everything that we're doing down in this area. So it's look forward to for next week on October 14th.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you, Jake, so much. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for, when I approached you, I came just, he's like, if he says no, it's a no, but, I'm going to approach him, and I think it's great. And, you opened the door for me, and I really appreciate it. You have no idea. I'm actually humbled and appreciated, grateful for it. Why don't we do a giveaway, right? So, all right. So all the DeLoreans sold out. There was one left. I went and just thought about it and turned it off. So why don't we try to give one away? I don't know. follow, retweet, leave a comment in the tweet of your favorite Back to the Future line, and then we'll just do a random draw to a MoonCat owner and give them a DeLorean.
Awesome. So how do we want to go about this? Do we want them to do a specific hashtag, just follow you and tweet at you?
I don't know if I thought all the way through. I mean, I'm figuring, follow, retweet, and comment the best.
Here, let's do this. We'll make it a little bit easier because this is going to be released probably the day of or the day after the official Sotheby's announcement. So tell them to follow you and then look for your giveaway tweet where you give the list, similar to what I did with the Cheshire giveaway.
Okay, yeah.
So make sure
but they've got to subscribe to your channel too. How do we do that?
Yep. All right. Sub to my channel. Follow Digivatar on Twitter. His information is linked below, and you can win a DeLorean, which was selling for, what was the price of the DeLoreans?
It was 0.3.
0.3 ETH. Wow. So you guys are getting about $1,000 USD denominated giveaway. So that is incredible to see. This is one reason why I believe in crypto is you have the best odds to win a large amount of money that could be life-changing for some people. $1,000 could pay a lot of people's rents in a lot of these different cities. So thank you. Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we get out of here? Just again, reiterate where you'd like for them to follow you, more about Digivatar, or anything else that you do.
I mean, thank you. I want to thank the community. First of all, I want to thank the community for embracing me. I know that I'm new to the community, from the Rediscovered, but I just appreciate everybody. Everybody's super cool. Yeah, I mean, just come check it out. I mean, I want to be more integrated with you guys and be able to help. I want to design some charts to help newcomers come and all that. I mean, just come, follow me, check out my other artwork, and let's just see where we go from here, man. I'm super excited. Thank you.
Hey, I thank you, homie. Man, we have a bright future ahead of us. Quarter 4 for MoonCats is about to go berserk with the rest of the crypto markets. This is your boy Cat Dad. Make sure you give us all a follow, and we'll see you at Sothebys on October 14th.
See you at Sothebys.